It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all, it's time, yet again, the Andy and Rem Show, episode 119, and as you can see, as usual, I'm joined by, in fact, where is Remington? He's strangely absent right now. What's going on here? This is very strange.
Walking around with my feet on the ground, it's bad Squido Games.
Yes, that. So
bad Squido Games.
yes, this bad Squido Games, I've heard something about it, like word on the street. It seems to be the hot new thing out there in the market nowadays.
I'm getting a lot of this too. I don't know where there's all chatter. Don't know where it's coming from.
And if it's getting its own Remington jingle, then it's obviously a company on the up.
Something worth investing in, one might say.
Some might say that. Perhaps someone with Remington's millions could be tempted to make a cash injection. Any word on that, Mr. Remington? If you're gonna be providing a Bad Squido jingle, you must have faith in this brand.
Absolutely, I think it's massive. It's global, global. So good, we need to say that twice.
Put your
Bad
money
Squido,
where
global.
Put your money where your lyrical mouth is, Mr. Remington.
Forget Andy Palooza. It's all about Bad Squido Games, sponsored by Remington Industries.
Yes.
It's the Squido takeover today.
Do it.
So this
I did
sponsorship.
invite myself as well.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what Remington Industries actually does, you know.
It does a lot. It supports the community and young entrepreneurs.
What doesn't it do?
Exactly.
Is the question.
That might be the better question.
I was rather disturbed by a meme that Andy put up showing a woman on a desert island all alone, and she builds a Remington sign out of stone in case any helicopters or, planes passing by and nothing comes. In fact, they fly past. And then she does an Andy Palooza one, and then all the planes suddenly land. Probably crash land.
They crash land with excitement because tickets to Andy Palooza are so sought after.
I don't know. Maybe they bailed out. They probably bailed out.
So, before we dive into any topics, obviously Annie is joining us again of Bad Squido Games, arguably the #1 wargaming company based in Nottingham.
Definitely. I do not know of any others.
And the topic for today is a very spicy, sizzling, juicy one, potentially deeply controversial as well. The main topic is going to be the reopening of the wargaming world, as it were. So we're talking shops, events, tournaments, trade shows, gaming at people's houses, which I think is one of the less controversial ones. And on top of that, got a couple of GW releases to look at, which Mr. Remington steered me towards. He's got his ear to the ground on that front. And this monstrosity on the screen right now. So before the show, obviously I ask anyone that's going to be joining us, is there anything you would like showing to the world so I can have it prepared on the screen there for the audience to see? So, would you like to explain yourself?
Rem.
Who me? What
Yeah.
was I meant to do?
Why would you put that on the screen? That's terrible.
Hold on. What did I put on?
Oh dear.
Oh God. Oh, that's one of Andy's creations, isn't it? It looks like one of his models.
It might well do. It's actually a character from the film Skinned Deep, which is a very entertaining film that you should probably watch if you haven't already seen it.
I've just noticed you did put it on the screen.
It is pretty cool.
What? I forgot his name though.
Brian. It's Brian,
Brian.
not Brain.
His very existence has been entertaining me this week.
It seems like Mr. Remington's grasp of technology is being called into question again. Radbat says Uncle Rem forgot what he sent into the show.
I didn't. Oh, whatever.
Basin says if Annie joins as a permanent fixture, the song is going to have to change.
Which song?
I think he's talking about the main intro song there.
I don't know about that.
My takeover.
I don't know about that. I mean,
That would require another studio session.
That would. That might take me another 15 minutes or so to knock that out. So I'll have to really set a time aside in my busy schedule.
Now we've got a packed house in the audience as usual tonight, with plenty of familiar and some new faces in there as well. So we're going to be referring to the comments regularly if you want to drop them in there. And these deeply controversial topics we're going to be diving face first into. So, first things first, let's have a look at this. Because this is what sparked my interest in the reopening frenzy that's likely to take place over the next few months. This is the announcement that Warhammer World has partially reopened, and I did take a trip down there the other day just to scope things out, see how it's going, make sure everything's safe down there, in my role as a wargaming hard-hitting journalist. And I discovered that there were about 3 customers in there, so it was very difficult to judge the safety measures they've got in place, but they did have a very long line of tape that everyone was supposed to kind of work their way around to get into the shop. However, because I'm such an A-lister, then the security guy said, you know what, you don't need to walk all the way around there, just walk through this tape here. Nothing to do with the fact there was no one else in the queue, it was just the fact that he recognised me and my celebrity status. However, I'm going to put a black mark against Warhammer World right now because they didn't have the one item that I went in looking for, which was orange Necromunda dice. Quite frankly, that is not good enough.
You're like that guy from Little Britain that goes into that shop and orders that pirate puzzle game.
Memory.
They've got everything except that one thing that you want.
Well, they did have the dice for the faction that I'm actually going to play, but they didn't have the orange ones. It's not good enough. The corpse grinder dice are just too red.
You could paint them.
But they do orange dice. Anyway, I ordered them in, so I'm just waiting an email to tell me they've been delivered to the shop. And there was hand sanitizer around. They've got a nice one-way system going. Bugman's is still closed, as you can see if you've been looking at this announcement on the screen here. So it's just the shop and Forge World shop are open. You can't go in the exhibition, because you know that people are just straight up to the glass with their hands like that immediately, as soon as they got a chance, and then someone else would walk past. There'd probably be like children licking the glass and all kinds of terrible germ-spreading things. And you can't really keep an eye on them at all times in the exhibition hall when you're also trying to keep an eye on the shop display cabinets as well, which could also fall victim to child saliva. So,
do you think, Andy, it was appropriate measures taken, or do you think it's a bit OTT?
I think that Warhammer World has put appropriate measures in place. I'm going to give them a thumb up. I can't give them 2 thumbs up because I didn't see how many people they would have capped entry at, because there wasn't that many people trying to get in. But when word gets around that it's open again, I'll wander back down and just have a look, maybe take some pictures. Not inside though, because that's against their regulations.
I was trying to get you a job there, wasn't I, Andy, as a health and safety inspector.
You did send me a link to the Warhammer Games Workshop health and safety inspector's position.
I think you'd be magnificent.
Well, maybe this is effectively an audition.
Yes.
I reckon management are watching.
I wouldn't be surprised.
They do, you know. There's no other show that talks about Games Workshop share prices and
True.
deep dives into the nerdology of Warhammer like we do as a fun thing, rather than, maybe all the rules and, stats and stuff. We're into
Heavy stuff.
we're into the general vibe of things.
Where's the tape for the queue? Does it go up the stairs?
The tape for the queue, it weaves all the way around the outside of the car park, and then it's like divided so you can't stand too close together. And then I didn't really see too much tape going on the stairs to get inside, so I was able to pause for a moment to take a picture with the sign in there.
So Andy, do you think they were expecting hundreds of people to be lining up?
No. It wasn't a very huge announcement they made. I mean, look at this. It's not even like huge bold lettering, exclamations everywhere. It's just pretty low key, trying to ease everyone into this slowly. They don't want just hundreds of people descending on it, which they probably will do now that we've announced that it's open live on this show, incidentally.
Now, banging on the gate.
I would have thought they'd expected the people that did come to the shop on the reopening to be walking out with handfuls of stuff they've not been able to get hold of, and you just asked for some Necromunda dice
that they didn't even have.
We have all these things. Have you got orange dice?
Can we write in the chat?
Feeling for them.
Can you guys write in the chat any obscure things maybe Andy can go in there and ask for?
Every day.
With a really straight face.
With a hidden camera as well.
Ask Andy, please.
I'm not putting it on YouTube though, because I don't want my channel taken down. So I might put it on Facebook and get my Facebook account taken down for a few weeks.
Void Captain Bazooka says orange cushions.
Well, it's funny you should mention cushions actually, because we're going to get to those later. So stay tuned. Interesting cushion developments. But I don't know if they have any cushions in there.
A few more. Neil Park says Cave Drake. Have you got a Cave Drake?
Is that a Forge World model, or is that something he's just made up?
Legion of Asgard Skullcracker, which I know there's been discontinued.
That'd be a good thing to ask for then. Like I would like the 1998 Metal Archaean.
These are all so cruel. Poor shop people.
Can Andy ask when the plastic Thunderhawk is coming out? I'm sure they never get asked that.
I love it.
And finally, Radbat says some Skaven polish.
Is that for polishing just the entire Skaven model, or is it for a specific part of Skaven, like their toenails or something?
You see, that's what you would ask if you were in the shop working, wouldn't it? You'd actually throw it back to the customer.
Unless that's what they have called varnish now, because you can't copyright gloss varnish or matte varnish, so now they're just going to call it Skaven polish. Yes, Skaven shine. There's one for you. Like an eerie green glow to all your models.
I've got a question. It's sort of changing the subject slightly, but it's a question of you, Annie.
Oh.
Now, you must have seen your models. If you don't know what Annie does, she runs a modelling company, and she produces and designs and manufactures and promotes wonderful, mainly female models, right? Have you ever been in a situation where people have shown you models that they've painted from your range?
Yeah.
Yeah, and do you act really impressed?
Of course, because they're always amazing.
What if they're really bad though?
But
What if they're like awful?
That's the magic of my miniatures. They're impossible to paint bad. Even if you've never painted a miniature before and you come up to a bad Squido miniature, it looks pro-painted. So
that's amazing.
They're constantly impressing me.
I might actually put that statement to a test and paint up some of your models with my left hand.
You should.
see what they look
how
like.
The confidence I have in my own products.
I love it.
What he's really doing is a test to see if there's honesty in the wargaming industry. So he's going to buy a model from every company out there, paint it really terribly on purpose, like eyeballs here, like nowhere near where they're supposed to be. with not at all thinned paints, just slopped right on there. He's going to dunk it in the pot and then just shake it. Then he's going to post them on all the Facebook groups, even approach people on the street who run these companies, ask them what they think. And if they tell him that it's the most amazing thing they've ever seen, they'll say, it's a great start you've made there. How many days have you been painting now?
How many minutes have you been painting? Oh yeah, and finally, Annie, I don't know if you watched the episode where me and Andy and I think we had Steels on a guest, and we were talking about different size bases. And I think, do you go for the round bases for your models or the square ones?
They don't come with bases.
They
Because I
don't.
used to supply bases, and then people just bin them. So, because everyone has their own basing. Because my models are used for all different types of games, and then they all have their own base systems. So I don't provide bases because it was just an extra cost. So, personally, yeah, I like roundies.
Well, you see, I see an opportunity here for Remington Industries and Bad Squido Games, not Andy, to sort of merge our minds together. What if you did provide bases, but they were entirely different from every other company?
Then nobody would want them because they wouldn't fit the rest of their army.
Let me show you the future. Triangle bases.
can't deal with this.
And you could have regimental formations forming.
I hope they're a bit straighter than that.
Yes, but you try and do it like, okay. Can you see where I'm going with this?
It's not that far off hex bases, though, is it?
Yeah, but they're triangle. They're triangle bases.
That could be the thing that tips me into full-on stocks business.
Triangle bases. If Remington Industries are coming out with triangle bases, you'd have to be careful which way round you're perching your miniatures on them, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, because they just stand across it like that.
Yeah, they'd kind of be back to back. You're not careful.
Oh, that would be cool, though.
Well, guys, you saw it here first. An exclusive Bad Squido Games and Remcon Industries uniting for future of wargaming right there.
Future.
We'll know when GW will release local bases next week.
The future is three-sided.
The future is 45 degrees. How about that?
I think you ruined it by adding the word degrees to the end there. I think just let people use their imagination.
It's more like that, isn't it?
That is a triangle, yes.
Well done.
That could be like the promo shot. Yes.
Yes.
Well
sorry,
then.
Let's get on with the show. I'm sorry.
Anyway.
You're welcome, that's free.
So, anyone who's thinking about heading on down to Warhammer World, of course, from the 24th, then you're required to wear a face covering when you visit. And it seemed like people were pretty much doing that anyway, apart from the security guard actually outside. But if you're outside and keeping a distance from people, maybe you can get away with it.
Yeah.
But the staff were certainly wearing masks. And I didn't see any of them doing the cheeky, nose poking over the top of the mask either. or the mask around the neck. Didn't see any of that going on, so that's nice. There might be cues.
Did the staff look pleased? Did they look pleased to be back?
Well, the usual pleased look that they have on their face is usually kind of, I'm pleased in a very I have to smile and then sell you everything in the shop kind of way. So they can't really harass the staff quite so readily at the moment. So I don't know whether they are that pleased, because you can't see whether there's a smile underneath the mask or not.
That's what makes the masks amazing. They can just bitch face at everybody.
They should have Space Marine masks or you know what I mean, like Warhammer models based on their range.
That is actually surprising. While Bangarang are doing masks, which I have a selection, and they're the ones who do the Warhammer shirts and leggings and stuff like that. So they're doing licensed other stuff, face masks. So I was surprised. Maybe it's in the works.
On the subject of masks,
sells itself.
Just in case anyone out there is looking for a mask right now, I can direct your attention to the Andy and Rem Show logo mask available now on Redbubble. Link to be found in the description.
Nice.
Just
That
doing
looks
our
pretty cool.
bit. Doing our bit to save the world
Oh,
by branding masks with our logo.
looks very trendy there.
If anyone actually orders one of these live on the show tonight, then I will throw in a free internet hug, because that's the only kind of hugging that's allowed at the moment. So I'll keep my eye on...
I tried to give you a hug once, Andy.
That doesn't sound like something that would end well.
I don't think if you remembered it, but it was like literally trying to grab my arms around a plank of wood. It was like so stiff. You know what I mean? You got to loosen up a bit, Andy. Come on, man. Next time I see you, I'm going to give you a massive hug.
Well, I think I'll
It's a bit
avoid
of the
you.
new world
Yeah, I'll avoid you until there's no more virus cases anywhere on the planet then, just to be on the safe side.
of anything.
Well, once everything's all right, everything's calmed down. I had a COVID test, by the way, last week. I'm negative. So, yeah.
Excellent.
You're negative, the test was negative, or you're quite negative about it? Let's assume the test was negative.
I gagged. I did gag when she tried to put the thing down my throat. I couldn't do it properly. But the thing
So
up the
not
nose.
do the nose thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
they do the
Trump-
nose and throat.
It did the nose and the throat. And I remember Donald Trump being interviewed about the nose thing, and he was saying how terrible and how hard and unpleasant it was. It was fine. It's just like, you ever tried picking your nose before with your little finger? It's pretty much like that, but smaller.
I'm about to save a life right here as well, because in the comments someone has just said that they do the mask round the neck thing when at work and no one's in the shop, and I actually saw online that that's a terrible thing to do, because the contaminated flesh on the neck transfers all the potential virus particles onto the inside of the mask, which is then lifted back up onto the face. So the best thing to do is to take the mask completely off, apparently. So we're saving lives. Saving lives on this show. So, this mask, potential lifesaver right here. Everyone should be buying that. But if you're not buying that, then you should probably be spending all your hard-earned life savings on all these other fine pieces of merchandise, including the Andy and Rem Show socks, the Andy and Rem Show mug, the Andy and Rem Show pin, the Andy and Rem Show backpack, comforter, throw pillow, duffel bag, phone cases, t-shirts, stickers, and look at this one. This is a personal favourite because of how stylish it is. Look at this. The Andy and Rem Show mini skirt. Possibly the finest piece of merchandise ever to grace the internet. If anyone sends us a picture of them wearing that, then I would be very surprised.
You've got to pass that around. You know when you get those things that you mail across to people? You get like a scrapbook and someone adds something. You should get one of those and send it around the watches, so you end up with a gallery of everybody in it, and everyone who sends in a picture gets something, and then they have to send it on. I have to thoroughly clean it between each wearing, of course.
Now, look how happy everyone is in these pictures. Obviously, it was all done, social distancing was in effect, but I had all these professional models in to try on our new range of merchandise, and they were all so thrilled because they were going to be featured on this show, that they just couldn't hide their delight. Look at that smile. And Void Captain Bazooka says, none of this is orange. And if it's orange you're after, then also in the Redbubble shop you can look at the Andy 2D6 branded merchandise, and all of that is in fact orange. So if you're not so keen about having the Rem part of it on there, then you can get some orange merch. I'm sure there are a couple of people that could go for that. Here is the shower curtain. Now look at this. This repeating, beautiful pattern.
The repeating patterns do not work.
Don't say that live on the show. There were people adding it to their basket until you said that.
No, I'm swaying them towards the better product. Like the bad Squido red.
No, don't go there.
So, Andy, have you made any sales yet? What are people buying?
Well, so far, some of the products that have been sold: stickers, zipper pouch, and mugs as well. In fact, one person that's purchased an item has taken up my very generous offer that anyone who buys a piece of merch and lets me know that it was them will get a character named after them in the Forest of Rem. So the more expensive the merch, the bigger the roll. So if you're just buying a sticker, then you're pretty certain to be just a little side character that Remington accidentally decapitates immediately. And if you buy, for instance, the Comforter, which is slightly on the expensive side, then I think you'll be a god that Mr. Remington will have to pit his wits against for an entire episode. Just the most powerful being in the universe. So, there you go. Merch.
Comforter is incredible.
So tempting as well. I kind of want one, but
Do you know what?
I would have to sell so many stickers to warrant buying it.
The entire shop is purely so Andy can buy himself a comforter.
Look at that. So eventually my room is just going to become decorated with all this beautiful merchandise. And I'm going to leave it resting on here while we talk about the reopening of the wargaming industry, just in case any casual viewers pop along and just see this on the screen and think, you know what I need right now? A comforter, but I don't have one. You know what else I need? I need something with the Andy and Rem show, like, pasted across it endlessly. And there it is, my dream product. I care not for the price. I'm adding 10 of them to my basket right now. I assume that's going to happen eventually. Maybe even on this show.
They're out there.
Well, what news have we got then in the world apart from Warhammer World opening?
Well,
trade shows.
Yes.
Trade shows.
Trade shows.
Being discussed.
Obviously,
so I've been discussing this topic with quite a few people this week, which is why when I saw the announcement, I went, "Hey, I'm coming on the show." I mean, can I come on the show, please?
It was very politely worded.
Wargames trade shows are talking about starting back up, but nothing's been announced yet. So there's obviously been a lot of chatter among different companies. So if you're a hardcore Warhammerer, you might not know that there are loads, I don't even know how many, maybe it's probably like 50 or more Wargames trade shows every year in the UK, probably more than that. So that's lots of independent companies. GW tend not to do them. You occasionally get Forge World, say, at a bigger convention, but it tends to be the smaller ones. Of the companies downwards, you'll get like Warlord, Mantic, and then sometimes you get companies from abroad, depending on the size of the show. And then loads of sort of one or two people bands like myself. So some traders make quite a chunk of their earnings from touring the convention scene, and it's a bit of a sliding scale. So for Bad Squido, it's a bit of a top up, but we don't rely on it. So it means that we've been in a lucky position because obviously all the shows got pretty much cancelled this year. There's a few at the end of the year that are starting to discuss whether or not. So the next one is Warfare in November, which is currently saying it's on, and that they are assessing the venue and seeing what social distancing can be put in place. So that's interesting.
Annie, when things are normal, are there any real like rivalries between companies within the trade shows? Is it like trade show wars? Could it be like a telly program?
It's a wonderful industry where we're all the best friends and everyone supports each other.
Everyone lifts each other up. It's not like the bucket of crabs where they just pull the one that's trying to escape down to the bottom again. Just wonderful people helping each other.
Do you ever go, they'll say, oh, I've just been over to, I don't know, like Mantic Games. Oh, no, you haven't, have you? Have you seen their new They're crap, aren't they? You know, all the bottles flake off in your hand.
Obviously not myself, as I would never say such a thing. But yeah, obviously it's a funny industry. I'll go watch myself if I say too much. They'll come for me. But it's a lot of people that are doing the same sort of stuff sometimes. So mostly, to be honest, it's more of a, even when people are doing the similar sort of stuff, it's more that we've got more in common than the rivalry, if that makes sense. So it's not like, oh, they're a competitor sort of thing. It's someone doing the same thing. And Wargamers buy everything, so it's a lot of the time it's not a case of they'll buy that or that. It's like if they like say my Shield Maidens, and then they say, "Oh, I've heard someone else does Shield Maidens, so get them too." They tend not to go this one or this one.
So, what if you're a newcomer? What if you're a newcomer coming onto the trade show tour? You know, is it tough
Well,
to state your claim?
they've got to go through the initiation rituals and all that sort of thing, obviously. The old bag of soap, that sort of stuff. No, it's hard. I found it really hard, and I got lucky really getting into the scene because they're very oversubscribed. So it kind of is waiting for people to die in a very literal sense.
So there's only a certain amount of pitches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the shows have been going for absolute decades. I'm sure there's people in the comments that can say how long they've been going to shows for. So it's a lot of sort of old companies, and some of them are kind of just dying. We've got to be careful what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is this going to be?
They're still there taking the spot, and then there'll be new companies that are like full of pizzazz and doing something new and exciting, and they can't get in. And I was lucky, partly skilled, because I went on quite a campaign to get into them. So when I couldn't get in shows, I'd sort of make myself as available as possible. So I'd sort of turn up at the show, find out who the person was to chat to, or a lot of the shows the first year I got in because I was available the night before when someone had gone ill or something like that. So I kind of did a bit more proactive to get in, but it is an issue, I think, that it's harder to get new fresh stuff in.
Here's an interesting thing to muse on. So, is this going to be the best or the worst time for small companies to be thinking about going to trade shows? Because on the one hand, maybe with social distancing, all the stalls are going to have to be more spaced out. You're going to cram less in. But at the same time, maybe half the other companies aren't going to even attempt to attend these things. So there might be spots opening up. But then, that also means that customers might be limited as well. You might only get a small number of them in. You might be able to wander around once and then get thrown out. One-way system.
They're talking about the one-way system, and I was just so constant, just Annie waiting for people to die. I've killed enough. I'm at every show I want to be now. So the stream of mysterious deaths has ended. Yeah. So one of the things I was talking about with another company earlier was my concern. And again, we're careful because I don't want to go, shows are going to be rubbish, and then, start the whole thing where people get that into their heads, because it might work. But as a punter, from my punter goggles, basically, I just think the fun of the shows in this current climate, but we don't know what it's going to be like by November, but this current thing, all the joy is gone, because it's been a weird thing anyway that shows were set up pre-internet, so they were absolutely really important then, because that's where you'd go find new companies. You can just go online, buy it, have it the next day, and they're still relevant. And a few people have been saying, shows should have died years ago, and I really enjoy them. And I think it is more than just the shop. It's more than just selling. So there's demo games. People meet up either intentionally or unintentionally with people, and it's just a bit of socializing with fellow nerds, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Couldn't they have done like a YouTube virtual trade show?
I'll go to that in a moment. But with all the sort of stuff people were talking about is, do the one-way system, all the screens, that sort of max, spread all the stuff out, queuing outside. Everything gets really mechanical, so it seems like it. And no. So the shows I have spoke to have said about cutting all of the demo participation tournaments, all of that out, so that they can distance the stands.
Oh.
So all you're going to do is go in, panic. This is from my perspective. Freak out about all the social distancing. You got to go in, buy your stuff, and F off again seems to be how I imagine it working. Where if you're going to do that, you can just buy it online, and it's a lot less hassle. Because what I enjoy about shows is chatting to people, because they'll come up and we'll have a chat. But if that sort of prolonged chat is... And I found talking with masks on quite hard for any sort of proper conversation as well, because of the sort of muffling and all that.
Especially in a loud room like that as well. It's going to be difficult.
Well, what's the mecca of trade shows?
Salute for Wargaming, but UK Game Expo is the big sort of general gaming, so that's a lot more board game RPG, but that's getting more wargaming too. So that's those two shows. They're the ones this year that I was really like, yes, and that's a significant amount of money that I'm not getting now because I'm not going there. It's the same for a lot of the other companies. UK Game Expo are doing some sort of digital thing that I need to look at. But we've had a couple of digital wargame shows, and it's just, I find it all a bit awkward because I think it's quite a bit of a skill to be able to put it all together, which a lot of people don't have. So I think Expo will be good because they're in that, I don't know, it's like the more techie world, the role plays and board game people. Whereas a lot of the, say for example, the Wargames, again, it's going to be where I get quoted again. The Wargames trade show organisers tend to be a bit older, and again, they've sort of done it from the 70s and not changed much since then. So
Call
to
them
get
experienced.
To get them to suddenly go, hey, you need to host a multi-video thing and do all that, they're like, what? So there's been a bit where we've kind of had a day where the show would have been and you do a bit of video, but it's all a bit disjointed. And I'm never quite sure what I can do. It always ends up like free shipping. And I don't want to do free shipping every time there would have been a show, because I don't like doing free shipping. Giving things away. Sorry, it's a very rare thing, but when it's like, I don't want to be every other month, then people expect it and we lose cash and all that.
Do you ever do a trade show exclusive miniature?
I haven't yet. I've considered stuff like that for Salute or Expo or something like that, but I don't know. The business side always says to make exclusive things, but then I just feel like, I'd feel excluded though if it was if it was me and I couldn't get to a show. Then I'd think, I can't get that miniature. So I've never had Kickstarter specific minis or anything like that. So I just thought, but the people that don't get them, that sucks.
Yeah.
And if it's an exclusive miniature as well, you've got the nice juicy mould to make it that's just sitting there unused afterwards. Like, what a waste.
Obviously, the bigger the company you are, that's way more doable. Someone like Forge World could go, we're selling this for one day only and sell so many. I do it and go, crap, I should have put it up for a week or something.
If Forge will do that, and not just their website crashes, the entire internet crashes. As we see with all GW's limited release.
So I'm very... I'm very concerned about how trade shows can work, and it's kind of been giving me a bit of a background brain thinking about the general future of them as well.
Oh, they'll be back. They'll be back. I've no doubt about it. But the real question is, if you were to take Andy to a trade show, what would he come back home with? He'd probably come back home with like a pen.
An orange.
You know what I mean? That's what he bought.
Usually, what I come home with is something like this: an orange dice. This is a giant one as well. Anything orange usually catches my eye. But
there is video evidence of you purchasing two things from me, I think.
Yes, there is a video of me
buying an orange badge and an orange dice.
That is true. That might be around the same time I bought some orange tokens from you as well, I think.
Although that was only
gems.
for the video. It was just for the video, and then you made me give the money back after the video, didn't you?
That's so typical of Andy.
That is not true at all. But let's not feed into that scandalous rumour. But speaking as a customer from these events, one of the things I like to do when I'm at any kind of big trade show like this is take my time, wander around, look at everything, assess if I want to buy anything, then wander around 3 or 4 more times just to make sure, and then at the end of the day decide, okay, I do want one of those, and go and buy it. If I'm only allowed to go around once and have to buy it on the spot, then anyone on like the first couple of rows has got very little chance of getting my money. I'm going to be buying stuff at the end when I've already seen everything that's available, and then I'll think, well, I might as well buy something while I'm here. This stand's got an orange dice set, I'll have that, and then I'll be off. Whereas if I could go around again, I'd maybe go back and get like the kind of things I've bought in the past on the, like the second or third lap round have been like a giant crab, for example. And in fact, the Fishmen that I gave to Mr. Remington, I don't even know if he's painted them yet. After he was demanding Fishmen for all these years.
Oh, I was really hoping he was going to get them out all painted.
That was 2 or 3 years ago as well.
Oh,
I can't paint. They're tiny, man. And I've never heard of this company
What are they?
before. Voyage to...
oh no, it's Shed Games. Who I know. That's a
what?
small company. There you
I
go.
can't find any of their products. And these fishmen, they're so small. I can't even see. I kept it. I'm just wondering. It says £3 on the front. I really doubt if Andy paid
If it says
anything for
£3, there's a very high chance that I paid that price for it. I'm not going to negotiate on such a tiny product like that.
Look at that. Isn't that cool?
You didn't
There you
use
go.
your influence.
That's nice of him, isn't it?
I may have used my influence on more expensive products I was buying at the same time.
That's my reward for 6 years service on the Andy and Rem show.
A
got
pack of
3
fishmen that
fish.
you haven't even painted yet.
3
Oh.
fishmen that are like 10mm scale.
I would like to see everyone in the
Shed
chat right
Games.
now demanding that Mr. Remington paints the fishmen. Hashtag paint the fishmen.
You can paint them, and then I can get Chris, who runs the company, on the show, and
Yeah.
then we can do the first test where you can show him them and see if he says if they're amazing or not.
I don't think they're going to be very good. That might be quite embarrassing. I'll try it because I'm actually running out of miniatures to paint. I've got 7 halflings and a tree man left to paint. And then I've literally painted almost every miniature,
Almost
In my
apart from
collection.
your fishmen.
apart from the fishmen.
Due to the Bad Squido Games website.
Yeah, there's plenty of good
Where we
stuff on
have
there.
million painted miniatures. All fabulous.
Do you have anything that could go with fishmen? Washerwoman?
You've got various kind of
Fishmen and
lizard.
washerwomen.
You've got some lizardy kind of creatures, haven't you?
Got a snake woman, but
A
she's
snake.
of land.
You've got a big. What's that big lizard you've got? Is it with the pirate captain?
Oh, I've got my iguana. Yeah,
Yeah,
got my massive iguana.
that'd go well with some fishmen, I think.
Okay.
Take my word for it.
Peer pressure. Peer pressure.
Right.
So, yeah,
are we supposed to be doing a show about Warhammer and stuff? No.
We
Okay.
were on shows. What were we on about shows?
Well,
we
we've
do,
still
we do
got.
have an agenda, Andy. You're supposed to be
Yeah.
chairman.
So
Well,
my
it's-
trader perspective of it is that it appears to be quite a big risk. They're doing like the local lockdowns, as Remington has experienced, are very sudden, and they're now able to do them anywhere, like immediately, and sort of cancel anything that's going on. So I'm intrigued as to how that works with insurance. But if I was organising, that would put the fear in me. So again, as a trader, something that could get cancelled last minute doesn't fully put faith. But the system, so all the old men that I had to kill to get my spot, it tends to be if you miss a show, you lose your spot.
Oh, it's just like football, man.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
So it'd be easy for me to say I'm not doing any shows this year. But the thing that's got me on that is I don't want to lose my spot. And then next year, when it's all great again, I've got to kill more old men. So
Oh,
I'm
man.
not sure. So I'm in the position, candidly, of hoping that the organisers don't run them. But then I'm kind of darkly curious. I want them to run one that I don't go to, so I don't have to make the decision, and I can see how it goes. And that's
What
also the
if
sense of-
you didn't go, but you sent 2 men on behalf of Bad Squido Games?
I think it could be potentially disastrous.
Potentially
Potentially
career-ending.
A blockbuster year.
I don't know of 2 men who I could send.
If you look at either side of the screen, you'll find one who can look after the bargain bin, who's wearing orange, and one who will just take over the whole trade show and come back with millions.
You'd probably be pretty good, to be fair. I'm up for that. Yeah.
I think you should put it out there. Next trade show you do, Bad Squido Games, featuring guest appearances from Andy and Remington.
Wargaming A-list celebrity weekly
It'd
show
be quite
hosts.
the mob. But they wouldn't buy anything. They'd just be running over to get their autograph.
Ah,
Maybe we would only give them an autograph with a purchase.
Ooh.
That sounds
A
like a good
minimum
ploy.
£20.
Yes.
What about tournaments and events?
Oh, I can give some valuable insight on the tournament scene.
Ooh.
And I've got an interesting perspective on this. So, this is dependent on the pandemic actually ever being over completely. And there's a successful vaccine that they just roll out, everyone just gets a quick injection, and now it's all fine and it's gone. If that day comes in the next few years, it could be arguably the best thing that's ever happened to the tournament scene. Because I'm sure, Annie, you're aware of this from your time at tournaments in the past on the Warhammer scene.
My time.
Tournament hygiene, perhaps, isn't high on people's agenda, shall we say.
No.
I can say from personal experience that I've witnessed many a person leaving the toilets without washing their hands. Not only that, the most common one is people sneezing at the table and then offering their hand to shake. I've seen that many a time. Not even people that you would think are inconsiderate. It's just, it doesn't occur to them that that's a problem. And I think with this global pandemic putting hand washing and hygiene to the forefront of most people's minds, then it could actually usher in a golden age of tournament hygiene.
Cleanliness. You're very optimistic. I would think that it would just decline afterwards.
Another thought I've had though is if it's not going to go away quite so rapidly and smoothly, then tournaments will have to come back at some point, but they'll have to do so safely, which says to me that games like Dreadball that I've been to tournaments for are a bit of a no-no, because it's quite intimate in there. You're putting your hands all in the same place as your opponent and very close quarters, whereas something like Kings of War or Warhammer Age of Sigmar, maybe something on a large table where you can stand on opposite sides and you barely get within arm's reach of your opponent at all throughout the whole day. If you put it on a big enough venue, I'm thinking places like Warhammer World or Element Games or the various other large venues like that, you don't overbook the number of players. You just keep them nice and spread out, plenty of space between each table. No one buttock to buttock is a good move as well. Put all those things in place, hand sanitizer, and I think it shouldn't be too long before those kind of tournaments can come back, because people are saying that gaming clubs are starting to open up with safety measures in place, and those generally aren't as populated. So I think in the right circumstances, tournaments can come back, just not on as tightly packed a scale, which will also be nice as well.
Do you ever go to Maelstrom games? When
I didn't. The way you say that makes me think that they're terrible.
No, no, I can't say the thing. The venue Maelstrom I really liked it. It was one of my favourites for tournaments, but it was very crammed upstairs in the tournament bit, so it was a constant butt rubbing. I just got several flashbacks there from. It was like there was space for one person between the tables, so yeah, you'd kind of.
Annie, is any punters ever come up to your desk and stuff and then dropped one and then walked off and left it there?
Every trade show.
Oh god.
Every trade show. And then I'm stood there and someone else appears, like, great, yep. So part of me is thinking, do I want to go to trade shows again?
Some elements of
lovely.
Wargamer hygiene and consideration for others probably won't come back as a result of a pandemic, but some of them change.
So for shows as well, because it's sorry if I just cut into what you were going to say there.
Nope.
So a lot, because I'm largely in the historical games, a lot of those customers are in the older demographic, and there's a lot of people who aren't that in the best of health. and they're obviously the people that are being mentioned quite a lot as the ones that most at risk, which also gives me concerns as whether they'll want to go and whether I want them to go. So one of my concerns was if I go, I'm kind of saying that it's okay, even if I'm going because I desperately need the cash. It's still, I feel like it's given the sort of green light to my customers that you should come along. And then there's the fear that I can kill some of them. And I'm not, that's my rule. Never kill customers. That's a good oath to have.
Only competitors.
Only fellow Wargames companies. I didn't kill them. They were on the way out. And just give them a little nudge.
But yeah, you don't want to have
The
to.
balloon.
You don't want to have to be attending these shows and then afterwards see that there's a death toll for each one, and think, how many did I personally bring by announcing that I was going to be trading there? Like that's a burden to carry.
I had the fear. The last show I did was Hammerhead, which was it was days before it really got big in the UK, but it was building up. And I was freaking out all week, the week leading up to it. And I was really unsure. And I think it was the night before I still wasn't sure if I was going to go or not. And I had exactly the same fears. And it was before it was really big. It was that sort of weekend that turned into a this is really serious in the UK sort of thing. And with that, I went in the end because nobody else I spoke to had any like major concerns and thought I was going a bit crazy. And so in the end, I thought, well, people are going to go regardless. So whether I'm there or not won't make a difference, other than I'll get money if I'm there. But that was the week. Yeah, I can't remember. It wasn't locked down straight after, but it wasn't far off. And I was still at that show with like I had like gloves, sanitizer, and all this, and the amount of people that were coming up trying to hug me, and I was going no. And some people were quite rude about it as well, and which also got me in a whole like consent, dudes. I don't want to hug you, but you always hug me. Oh no, not today. So it was that sort of like dodging people all day. And then during the quiet bit, so I was kind of just stood there as I do, looking around the hall. And it was like this horror show of, just people walking around sneezing into their hands, wiping it back on the guys coming out of the toilet, zipping their flies up. So they've clearly not washed their hands. And just looking around that in horror and thinking, we're all going to die. that was the last show I went to. And yeah, the other reason was because it was all in an awkward time as well. I felt a bit bad for the organisers, so I didn't want them to have a crappy time. But I think anything that had been later than that would have been an absolute no-go.
Do you do these on your own, Annie?
I used to. I don't want to do them on my own ever again. I don't know how I did. No, I either have a helper, which is usually a mate that comes helps me out. Currently, I find other Wargames companies that I can hitch a ride with, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm currently travelling around with Sarissa. Well, I was till everything got cancelled. So I was using some of their van space because we all go to the same shows. Yeah. And then I think the odd one I've done by myself. Obviously they've helped with the transport. But yeah, I've usually got somebody that I've roped into helping me. It's pretty much always a mate that just I can drag out. I rotate through my friends so nobody gets overwhelmed by it all. Yeah. But they are really hard work, and even though I miss seeing people and I miss all that, and I do miss the money, which is a big reason for doing it. Yeah. I don't miss just being knackered. So a lot of it takes quite a lot of work, even the smaller ones, getting everything prepared and then doing it, and then going straight back to work. There'd be so many weeks, especially in the show season, where I just wouldn't get to stop because I'd work all the weekend. Then you've got to unload, then do a working week. Then, there's a show this weekend. And it's just really knackering. And now I've just got this, my weekends are just entirely blank and it's beautiful. Rather than that whole oh no, lockdown, I've got no plans. Like
it sounds very much like when I used. It sounds very much like when I used to tour with bands. Like the actual time you're on stage just flies by.
Yeah.
But it's the waking up, getting everything sorted, loading, unloading, setting up, packing down. All that is actually the reality of it, isn't it? And yeah.
I've been streamlining it to make it a lot better. So it was generally nowhere near as mayhemous as it used to be. And I want to go back to shows, but it's made me have quite a few sort of reconsiders maybe for the future of how many shows to do, like whether to just do some of the big ones. But I say that every year, and then I go, I'll go anyway. I'll miss out. I'll miss people. I'll go. Sod it.
Have you ever thought about doing a show abroad?
Yes, I usually trade at Crisis, which is in Antwerp in Belgium, and that's my favourite show. But that's all sort of screwy now because they've had to cancel this year. I didn't go last year because it was something like a week after the Brexit vote, and nobody had any idea what was going on, which has been quite an interesting comparison because it's very similar with the pandemic. Trying to make plans when you just don't know what's going on.
I mean, Brexit just seems like such a pathetic thing now compared to COVID, right?
Like, remember when we were all arguing about that? Now we're arguing about dying, but that's still happening. So that's obviously, it's easy to forget about, but that's still there, potentially being a massive business problem. But so Crisis, I didn't go to that last year because of Brexit, because I wasn't sure. I'd say bigger companies were able to sort of put a bit of risk into it. I was just like, nope.
I mean, isn't America where the big bucks are?
Yeah, but it's also a big spendage. You got to get there. I want to go 1 year because I've got quite a few American retailers now, so I like the idea of them having a stall. Me guesting on the stall, because then I don't have to bring things over and back. That's the big expense. I'm obviously getting the Annie there, but
you could just swan in, show your face, then just swan out again, as you please.
Although I said if I go to Historicon, I'd dress as a Victorian and be as English as possible. But they asked me to be on a panel a while back, and then I think they needed to have it was a vote or something, and I didn't get chosen. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it gave me faith that at some point I might be able to go.
Which is the mecca of trade shows in America?
Depends on your company, but I think GenCon's probably the beast, isn't it? But that just looks immensely stressful. The larger shows are good and exciting, but also really mayhem. And they're the sort of ones where, because you've put so much money into it, you've really got to make a lot of money back. So sometimes I quite like the little shows because the stand might be 40 quid or something. So you're not there going, I've got to hit target. It's just like, I'll chat to some people and and then at the end, sometimes you go, I actually did make some good money too.
I've seen plenty of pictures of GenCon, and it doesn't look like anyone has any space to breathe, let alone walk. It's like, maybe if you're lucky, you've got like that much space between people, a centimetre or so. It's just completely packed, and that's like before people have even got inside the doors. You just see a crowd that looks like the inside of a trade show or something, but that's actually just outside the door. And then they turn around the camera and it just stretches for miles, like thousands of people.
What sort of hours are there? Trading hours? Is it like 10 till 6, or is it like 10 till 10 at night for these big ones?
The old man shows that I tend to do are usually something like 10 to 4. But there's quite a big difference between the British shows and the American shows. UK Game Expo is ours that's really really Americanized, which is a good thing because it's I know people say that in a bad way. It's Americanized, but it makes it a bit different. So they are very sort of shop based, even though there's other stuff. But the American ones are really convention, and it's a lot of spending time with people and playing games. So in the UK they might be a day or 2 days, and it's sort of normal shop hours, and you pack up. Some of those bigger shows, it can be really slog of sort of like, I don't even know what GenCon is. It's something like Wednesday to Monday of trading like all hours or something. I've never been, so I don't know for sure. But I know Expo, which is say our sort of version of it, is a lot of hours. And last year I was just dead. And I wanted to go for some food in the evening, and I couldn't feel my feet. Yeah. So I kind of just like shuffled back to my hotel, and I was thinking, I'm going to regret this when I sit down and then think everyone else has gone out for food and drink. I just did not. No. I had the foamiest bubble bath in the world. I had to go buy a bubble bath, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to take it back with me, so I put the whole load in. And I ended up in some like bubble world. But that's rare for me to just be like, I'm not going anywhere. So I was dead. And that's
Annie, have you ever spent hours showing someone how to play one of the games, maybe at a trade show, and they ask loads of questions, and then they go, "Oh, thanks very much," and then walk off?
Oh yes. Luckily, I don't do games very much, but I've helped out on other stands where that's happened.
That must be horrible, man.
But I think I mentioned last time how I'm the best customer ever. Because if I play a demo game, I'm pretty certain to buy it because I feel so bad for the person who's done it. Unless it's absolutely terrible. I'm like, oh man, I've taken up their time. Best buy it.
The best thing to do is say, oh, I really like that faction, but it doesn't look like you've got that many of them on the shelf, so I think I'm going to wait till I get home and look on the website and maybe get some of those there. So then you walk away and they think there's a sale in the bag. Nope. Not me.
Not you, of course not.
Annie, have you got loads of games then? Loads
No,
of...
I'm minis.
No,
minis.
but from what you've bought from other people's companies, from trade shows.
No, because I don't allow myself off. I'm allowed to buy books. So I tend to just buy historical books because there's usually historical book stands there.
Oh.
But I did end up with quite a selection of games. No, it's good because if I've not been to that many shows as a punter because I ended up trading quite quickly. But yeah, it means that I don't get to go off and buy stuff, so that's good. Occasionally I might eye something up, but
I mean, is it a good day out for a punter?
yeah. So it depends on the show. Some have got more going on than others, and even the smaller ones. I mean, if you're not traveling too far, then it's a nice day out. But some people travel really far for them, and sort of see the same faces wherever you are in the country, and then you go to Antwerp. Well, it's you again. If people enjoy it, then that's wicked.
As long as they're not getting
But
too squashed and getting germs coughed onto them.
Yeah, parallel universe me that doesn't have a company and goes as a punter. I'd probably go to Salute Expo and then the odd sort of local one, I think. But you do tend to get a lot of the same traders around, so
Annie and Andy, when I've seen pictures or video footage from these big expos and things, some people seem to go like in full fancy dress.
Dress is cosplay.
There'll be plenty of dislikes for that faux pas you've made there, Mr. M.
What? Oh, cosplay. Okay, sorry, I'm not from here. So you can't. So do people come like dressed as, characters from wherever,
Not so much at ours, not at the sort of war game shows. You get a few at Salutes.
It's literally just Andy then that comes in like costume.
When's Andy ever been in costume?
He's always in costume.
I'm in costume as myself. But you do get quite a few at the Games Expo. You usually have like a gang of 5 wandering around taking pictures of them like holding their swords against people who are looking terrified and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Expo's the biggest for that. So that's the most fun at a show by far, Expo. I was kind of hoping that more of the war game shows would take a bit of a leaf out of their book. Because they were really more diverse as well. And I just spent last year was the first time I traded there. It was only a last minute because somebody else had dropped out. But so I'm squeaking this tentacle. Getting distracted. I totally forgot what I was saying there. So it's just a bigger mix of people, and it's just more fun and colour, and everything's just like wee, like a big American convention type thing. And a lot of the smaller war game shows can be a bit sort of dusty and cardboardy. So I'm hoping they get a bit of the jazz. So I'm usually standing out with balloons and stuff like that on my stand and fancy stuff just to make it more fun. And it looks really out of place. And then at Expo, it's like, everyone's got balloons! Yes! It's like, I need more balloons, crap!
Annie, what's been your best-selling range or best-selling product from a convention trade show?
Orange dice.
At trade shows? Nice. It's probably. I'm trying to think if there's a difference between trade shows and online sales. The World War II stuff generally, but it tends to go in waves. So it's like what's popular, but the World War II is always a good one. Which is another reason I'm doing more Soviets at the moment. As Andy can attest, I've been reading lots of sad Eastern Front testimonial type stuff.
Well, that stuff
But
seems
yeah,
to make wonderful hammock reading.
It does, yes. That's a good opportunity for me
When
to
you think
mention
about it,
my-
the 20th century was one of the most horrific centuries ever.
I've been thinking about this quite a lot. How we've had quite a relatively quiet period before the pandemic, which is unusual because we've got World War II, then all sort of in a bit of a mix. There's Vietnam, nuclear
Yeah.
war, the Cold
Spanish
War.
flu, influenza.
War, but yeah, but still quite a lot of so that and World War One, World War Two, then all those things afterwards, and then there's actually been a bit quiet because it's given me a small bit of comfort in the
Yeah.
sense of people have lived through all of that. Obviously, some have not, but life does eventually go on.
If you
Does
could, if you could teleport back and experience a year or two in any culture historically, where would you go?
Would I get to have any of my current day right? Would it be
No.
purely historical?
Oh, you could. You could express those feelings, but you would be in the world
I'm
as
gonna
it was.
die.
Probably
Wherever I
immediately
go,
be
they're gonna kill
executed.
me. I'm a woman. It'd be rubbish. I'll just be a witch in every time.
Presumably there must have been some ancient civilization out there where women were like in charge pretty much.
Yeah, that's true.
There must have been at least a few.
But they're still a bit.
They
They
probably
all end up dying really horribly. That's the thing.
there would have been all kinds of
Yeah.
terrible diseases going around. Everyone dies by age 28 probably.
Well, I listened to a documentary on Radio 4 today, and it was from an author, and she was talking about life in Ireland for women last century. And at one point, women were expected to bear up to 12 children because
Yeah.
there was no pension. Younger children were meant to look after the older people when they got old, and there was a high chance that a fair few of your children would probably die before they reached adulthood.
Yeah. So like, it makes time travel really, really rubbish. Because it's like let's go back and have a really rubbish time. So it'd be good if it had a fantasy twist. So like
Yeah.
if you went to fantasy medieval or something rather than actual medieval.
Yes.
So yeah, that would be cool.
Okay.
Just so you get the
Fantasy.
aesthetics and stuff like that, but you get to have a nice time as well. That would be alright. Where would I go to?
So,
I don't know.
before Mr.
What about you,
Remington,
Andy?
well, I was
What
going to
about you,
say
Andy?
before you attempt to hijack the show yet again, topic-wise, then I think I could probably answer that next week because I'm pretty sure that it's going to be approaching Remington bedtime at some point, and we've got other topics to move on to.
Yeah.
So we're going
Lord.
to keep our ears to the ground and our eyes on the skies and the prize regarding the reopening of everything, and we'll bring you any more hard-hitting info as we acquire it. So, very quickly, let's have a look at this, Mr. Remington. So you wanted to look at this Warhammer Underworlds roadmap, which is coming out with some new stuff, some new miniatures.
We've got 18 minutes before I've got to go.
Allegedly. You can't leave on the ultimate cliffhanger, though. So, orcs. Anything to say about the orcs? They're green.
Well, yeah, they're called Aurochs now, if you didn't know. And these are 3 Aurochs, and they're going to be part of Warhammer Underworld's Beastgrave. These were advertised, well, months ago now, but I guess they're coming out next month.
Very informative. Now, how about these? How about these fighty witch elf looking
cool.
snake ladies?
Now, these are way cooler, I think, than those orcs. And I shall definitely buy these because I have an army of Daughters of Cain. Yeah. So it's
Jumpy
just
whip lady, she's cool.
yeah, but it's a bit annoying because I've got 10 Sisters of Slaughter, and so she's going to be an 11th one. And You know, they generally should be in units of 5, 10, 15, or 20. So
Well, you'd have to paint them up specifically for Underworlds, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I like them though, and I'm going to get them.
Well,
there.
very nice. On that note, so let's quickly look at, we don't need to look at him again. These are from some of our community members. These were posted on the Discord server. So, we've got some Stormcast Eternals walking on clouds here. What do you think of those bases? And if you're on our Discord server, you can actually have a look at any point, preferably not right now because you're paying attention to this show, but later on if you look in there, there's also a picture of an entire piece of terrain that's in this cloud theme as well. So, very juicy.
Wow.
Oh yeah, that terrain was really cool, I saw that.
Very succulent on the eyeballs indeed. And then also posted in there, these are Kings of War miniatures here. They are grotesques for the Abyssal Dwarf faction. Clearly inspired by my paint job on them though, with the lava and the colour scheme. So also very tasty. See, it's not just Age of Sigmar stuff that you can post in our Discord server. You can post anything in there and we'll cast a critical eye over it and then heap praise upon you in the hopes that we'll earn more likes on the show. How many have we got? Only 13 so far. That's very disappointing. Hope to have at least 20 by the end. Oh, nice. Very good. So, let's keep this guy on the screen for a little while, and it's time for the second most wildly popular segment of the week. So, while I make sure I'm clicking in the right place to get it to pop up here, I mute everybody and then start the video. Here we go.
What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a chaos dwarf or a vampire bear? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it Sigmar speed or Neferata's hat? Oh, what the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? Is it a mangler squig or a sorcerer's rat? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know.
So, there we go. What the hell is that? It's on the screen in front of you. Tell us what it is. It's 4 miniatures from the Warhammer Age of Sigmar range, currently available on the Games Workshop website. I've got the answer on the piece of paper in front of me right here. And, well, tell us what it is. 4 miniatures. One of them is clearly some kind of text. There's a bit of barrel action going on. There's some kind of feather and what appears to be a body part. What do you think they are?
I think at least 2 of them are from Free Guild or Empire.
Yeah, that feather's very Empire, isn't it?
Yes.
But that's not currently in Age of Sigmar.
The Free Guild are, they've repurposed them.
Oh yes, definitely Empire.
But which unit though?
That one. Gunners. No, they wouldn't have
Swordsman,
gunners.
halberdiers.
Close.
Spearmen.
Very close with the gunners.
Crossbows.
Yeah, it's from a Free Guild crossbowman. Woohoo!
Yes.
Okay, 3 more to go.
That looks like an upside down foot.
It does, doesn't it? But you may notice that it's not got a base attached to it.
Will Matthews says handgunner's barrel monkey.
Is that actually a guess, or is he just like saying random words?
You do get a monkey.
It is not. It's not.
What about that foot? It's not a crypt ghoul, is it?
Nope, it's a
Not a
foot.
foot.
It's a foot. It is a foot, but it's a foot that's not planted on the ground. And I can tell you now,
It's being eaten by something, like a giant.
Could be on the right track with that. In the right ballpark there.
In a goblin pot.
You know what? I'm going to allow Skeleton Flower to have this one. As he says, foot from a squig hopper. It's not a squig hopper, but it is a squig. So I'll give you that. It's a squig that's eating a goblin, and this foot is hanging out of its mouth. So, two more.
I clicked the chat off, and I can't get it back. So.
Two more. We've got a barrel, and we've got some kind of text. What are they from? Anybody?
It doesn't look like chaotic text.
It doesn't, does it?
It looks
No.
elfish, like an elf book.
Ah. Is it Lotan? The guy with the octopuses that's writing.
I can tell you that the text is no doubt evil.
Ah.
Oh.
Purely evil.
Nagash.
Yes, it is Nagash.
Oh, I'm winning! I'm winning! And I'm like super out the loop.
Great guess there. And now we just need bottom left. It's a barrel with a hand on it. Come on, somebody's got to get this one.
It's a dwarf, isn't it? I bet it's a dwarf. Is it a dwarf with a barrel from the dwarf cannon?
No, it's not. I can tell you that it is actually a dwarf. But somebody's going to get the name of this dwarf.
Oh. I've got to I'll let the people decide.
On somebody. It's not a monkey barrel.
Is it a famous dwarf?
The hand on the... Yes, it is. Oh, in fact, I'm going to let William Matthews have this one because he might have misspelt it, but it is actually Gotrek, or Gotrek, however you want to pronounce it. So, let me just grab the solution here. And... look at that. So, it's Nagash's book. It's Gotrek's base, the barrel on it. It's a goblin foot hanging out of a squig's mouth, and it's a free guild crossbow feather.
Wow.
There we go. So, with that, I think it's time to go straight into the next segment of the show, which requires some kind of instrument, I believe.
That's right. I think Annie's going to sing the intro for this one. That's what I heard.
I don't remember hearing that.
Yes, let's hear Annie sing it. Come on.
I don't know how it goes. Forest of Ram, it's the Forest of Ram. You go on adventures in the Forest of Ram. Today there's Annie and also Rem, and there's Andy again.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, everyone, is it a chicken or is it a hen? The Forest of Rem. Here we go. So, you may remember that last week, Mr. Remington was thrust into the sky, ended kind of impaling a vessel with his body. His body was effectively a projectile. Got wedged in the deck, befriended some pirates, sky pirates, one of whom was a gnomish fellow with 2 eye patches, called Bob, his trusty sidekick now. Remington made himself the captain of the ship through sheer persuasion. The other captain was just thrown overboard. And these pirates did actually know the location of an infamous swamp hag that Mr. Remington has been seeking out for quite some time. He may not have remembered that he was seeking it out until it was brought to his attention, but it was there lingering in his subconscious. So they set sky sail for the swamp, came down with relative ease actually, and then Mr. Remington whipped out his didgeridoo for all to see, and it was kind of a pathetic attempt to play it, some people said, but others voted that it was a 6 out of 6. So, all the swamp creatures were summoned around, and we ended with Mr. Remington having to decide whether to plunge under the water to escape from these potential creatures, or whether to thrust himself up through the crevice onto the deck to face whatever friend or foe approaches with his pirate comrades. Mr. Remington.
Well, I need to get out of this hole, and I'm going to ask the crew to pull me out.
Okay, let's see how persuasive you are and how slippery you are with the roll of a dice, because you're already quite lubricated from that squid juice.
Nice. Remington. It's a very powerful 2. I think 2 should
Oh,
do it.
that's
2
not
up.
very good at all. So, the crew take hold of Remington's arms, one of them gripping the sleeping, snoozing flesh puppet. They start to yank. Remington starts to come free, but then the squid juice starts to ooze out onto the deck, squid juice being the most slippery substance in all of the old world. And unfortunately, the pirates lose their footing, let go of Remington, and the momentum sends him plummeting back through the deck into the swampy waters below. So, Mr. Remington, you are now swimming around in these thick, sludgy swamp waters. You're holding your breath right now, but if these get into your lungs, you suspect it will not end well for the tale of the travelling bard / minstrel, young Remington. So,
Well,
what is your plan from this position?
Well, swim to the surface.
So you're going to try and swim out from underneath the skyship and emerge.
Yes, I'm going to give that a go.
Okay, roll the dice. Let's see how successful you are at navigating the murky depths.
Here we go. Remington. It's a 1, which I think it should be good enough to get out of this.
I don't know why you would possibly think that. So, Remington rather pathetically splashes around in the swamp water. And, in fact, the pirates are so embarrassed by his kind of thrashing and waving his limbs about in the swamp water that they, in fact, decide to leave. The skyship just takes off, leaving Remington thrashing in the very shallow swamp waters, surrounded by what appears to be an impenetrable wall of goblin spear-wielding troops. There are also tentacled creatures in the water rapidly approaching. In fact, look, there's tentacles right there. If you look slightly below me on your screen view, you'll see a tentacular sight.
Days. That looks scary. Wow, that looks pretty realistic. Okay. Do you know, I'm going to go against the grain here, and I'm going to swim towards the embracing tentacles.
You're going to swim into the clutches of the tentacles and not towards the goblin forces.
Yes, it's actually quite safe to, be within the grips and the grasp of those tentacles. Perhaps that could deliver me from the water and the goblins. I've been in worse situations.
Okay, roll the dice then.
Worse embraces.
Let's see if you can navigate your way towards the tentacles.
It can't be any worse than giving Andy a cuddle. Come on.
In theory.
Here we go. Remington. It's another 1, unfortunately.
Okay. Mr. Remington attempts a kind of a silky backstroke towards the tentacles. However, because of his sludgy eyeballs at the moment, combined with the squid juices that he's still covered in from head to toe, in addition to this kind of swamp filth, he actually swims directly into the clutches of the goblin forces. The tentacles kind of shrug and submerge again into the swamp. Maybe to be seen again at some point, but not right now. So, a goblin steps forward as 2 of them grab you roughly by the arms. One of them, that seems to be the leader, has an eye patch. The eye patch, though, has a hole in it, so it's actually serving no purpose whatsoever. Steps forward, and for anyone that's interested, this is a character named by someone that bought a piece of merch. This could be you if you buy something from the Andy and Rib Show Redbubble. The goblin reaches out a hand rather majestically towards you and speaks. I am Darb the Goblin. Who are you?
I am Remington, the famous bard and adventurer and powerful wizard.
The goblins look sceptical. Would you like to roll the dice to see if you've persuaded them that you are a powerful wizard?
Okay, here we go. Remington, Okay, we're making some improvements here. The 2.
Well, they're not really buying your story. In fact, the goblin says to you, I'm not really buying your story, Remington. If that is your real name.
And I shall say, so you've heard of me.
They then look at each other in bewilderment. They mutter amongst themselves, these goblins. The only words you can make out are, is there something wrong with him? At this point,
Right, I need to
what
say
would you like to
something
do?
completely random. I shall check the chat and see if there's any help in the chat. Okay. I'm just going to say the last comment that was made and to this orc, this goblin chieftain.
Okay.
Saving all the good rolls for later, I see.
We are not bakers. We are fighters.
A fighter never fights on an empty stomach.
This is true. Agreed with
I
you.
could bake you some rolls.
They huddle to discuss this plan. So, roll the dice. Let's see how tempted they are.
If this is going to be high, I can feel it. Remington! Oh no. I've lost my dice. I'm going to have to go to the backup dice now.
Oh no.
Go with backup dice.
Controversial.
Remington! It's a 4.
Oh, that's not bad. So, they're not completely swayed by your words, but they are intrigued by the idea of some rolls. So, the goblin looks at you. Very well. You make us rolls. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, I have a plan.
They let go of your arms.
In my bag, I've got all those gold coins, so I just need to find something edible to wrap the gold coins in. And I can say that they're fortune cookies. Distracting them while I escape.
Okay, let's try that one. So, first of all, you're going to have to roll the dice and rummage in your sack to see if there's anything edible in there.
Well, goblins will eat anything, won't they? I just need to find something to
But you've
wrap
promised
the
them
gold
rolls.
coins in. Remington. Oh, that's a perfect 6.
Well, Remington reaches into this sack that seems to be hinting more towards magical properties by the week, and within this sack, overflowing with gold coins, he reaches in and finds what appears to be a baker's dozen of perfectly shaped, delicious, spongy rolls.
See, I knew I was a wizard. Okay, right. I said, can you all form an orderly queue, please?
The goblins do so.
Okay, just wait there a minute, and I shall take some steps back.
Okay.
And I'm going to leg it.
So you're going to run and try and make your way.
I'll throw the rolls, so that will distract her. I've seen that on loads of films. Yes, I will throw the rolls, and as they're all trying to catch them and get them and that, I will scarp her.
Okay. Let's have a dice roll for this one then.
Okay, sounds like a plan, right? Here we go. I'll just say Remington really calmly because that seems to work better. Remington. Yes, it's a 5.
That is pretty damn good, actually. So, the rolls hurtle through the air, each one of them striking a goblin about the face, knocking them sprawling into the swamp water. Mr. Remington turns and begins to flee. Did you want to go in the opposite direction to the goblins?
Yes.
Very well. Mr. Remington starts paddling his way through the swamp. However, he seems to have forgotten that at the other end of the swamp was a rather tentacular sight. And as his foot comes down into the swamp, it is ensnared by tentacles. You can feel the grip around your ankles, getting stronger with each passing moment. The goblins are starting to collect themselves behind you, and if you stay there much longer, presumably they will hunt you down.
I will start screaming, it's the Great Kraken. It's come to destroy us all. Help!
Okay. The tentacles are unswayed by your cries, lift you high into the air, and in fact, launch you through the air, and you come down with a splat in another part of the swamp, greeted by a rather grotesque cave entrance, sludge and slime dripping from the walls. If you look back, you can see nothing but swampy mist and the distant cries of disgruntled goblins.
Hey, that was successful then. I didn't even need my flesh puppet.
Not this time you didn't. So, will you be entering the cave or just kind of hanging out here for a while?
I shall be taking a rest and carrying on next week, I suppose.
I think
Place
not.
to stop.
Because
I've got to go.
from within the cave, a shadowy figure emerges, cloaked from head to toe. All you can see are bony fingers poking out. And this figure addresses you.
Oh, Remington. I have for you. Oh, I do. Sleep you will not. No sleep for you, Mr. Remington. For I must inform you about your descendant, Remington the Chosen. He must not be allowed. For his powers grow weak, so he seeks your special life juices. And he is coming for you, and you have to defeat it.
How do I do this?
He is from the future, so perhaps you must go to the future?
At this point, the hood is whipped back from the shadowy figure, and it is in fact revealed to be the terrifying swamp hag that you sought. Is there anything you would like to ask this swamp hag now that it has dispensed some valuable knowledge in your quest?
Okay, yeah. I've always wanted to meet a swamp hag, and that was really good. That was a really good entrance. Should we settle in for the night?
No sleep for you, Mr. Remington.
But why not?
It is forbidden. This cave, the sacred texts. I've seen your face before. It shows the story. I know how the story goes, and you do not sleep.
Oh God.
Is there any information you would like to try to glean from this swamp hag who seems to be all-knowing?
What do I need? Okay, where do I go now then? I can't sleep. Can you send me in the right direction then to find my future self?
I believe this cave of slime will help. Although you must be careful, for there is many a sleepy, sleepy fog.
Oh. Well, thanks for that information. You're the nicest swamp hag I've ever met. Honestly.
I mean, why, thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to reward you. I don't know whether you use them, but have some gold coins, and I might have a bread roll left over.
Oh.
Help
Well,
yourself.
I could treat myself to a new cowl.
The bread roll that you hand over is covered in swamp slime, but the swamp hag is probably used to that kind of thing.
Oh, and it comes slime and too. Thank you.
So,
It's a wonderful gentleman.
at this point, while Mr. Remington is exchanging pleasantries with the swamp hag, he's clearly at a crossroads. Is he going to take the advice of this seemingly pleasant hag and enter the cave, which could be the next step on his journey to the future to find his descendant? Or does he have another plan up his sleeve? Because this is Remington we're talking about, so he could just as likely chop off the hag's head and wander off into the forest.
The loose cannon.
Yes, so, audience, let us know next time what choice should Remington make. Should he trust the swamp hag or not? Ooh.
I think she seems trustworthy. I've
Right.
got a very long tentacle here.
That's Anna, you make a great, great character on this show.
I
Really
should
good.
be here. I reckon I should come just for the Forest of Ram each time and
I
not
think-
waylay and get you down thumbs on your show. Free
I
down
think you should.
thumbs.
I think that'd be cool.
Be a
Yeah.
wicked character.
So, with that,
Yeah.
our faces are going
On
to be
that
obscured
bombshell.
by the episode thumbnail, which has popped up right now, which I've spent so long photoshopping that it has to get a little bit of airtime at least. So, everyone, don't forget, by the way, at the bottom of the description there's actually a code that you can enter on Bad Squido Games at their web store to still acquire a free chicken with an order. That code is still active, so don't forget to check that out. Don't forget to check out all the other links down there as well, the various social media we've got going on, including Facebook, Twitter, Discord, all that nonsense, and all the various fundraising sources as well. And in fact, don't forget all the Bad Squido stuff, obviously, but the most important thing, as a result of their patronage of my Patreon, those that have pledged to a certain level to be named and personally thanked at the end of the show, I'm going to go through those names right now. The special thanks just for those people who have pledged at that level. So thanks to everyone, obviously, for viewing, but especially thanks to the following people: Guy, Brad, Barbara, Eric, Steve, Kim, and Graham. Special thanks to those people, obviously. And if Remington and Annie would like to say good night to our audience.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for letting me come back again.
Good night to our audience.
Don't forget to tune in next week for yet another juicy, spicy, tender, succulent, moist, finger-licking good, dishlicious adventure. And all that remains to be said now is, unless I've forgotten anything, good night out there. Whatever you are. Andy Palooza.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer fans.